Indiana Jones films are as intense behind the camera as they are on the big screen. His stunts have gotten more daring with every movie, and since digital effects weren't as advanced in the 80s, these scenes had to be shot for real. They've had movie sets on fire, been face to face with a real King Cobra, and Harrison Ford has been injured a lot, including in the last film.
Kids, don't try this at home. It's really best left for professionals, like us.
Here's how Indy's adventures were brought to life in every movie. Welcome to Xplained. Let's start with the first film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. From being chased by a boulder to having thousands of snakes on set, things got pretty wild on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indy brought out the daredevil and Harrison Ford, who did most of the stunts himself. To add a unique stamp to Indy's fighting style, he learned to use a 10-foot-long bullwhip.
I had a bit of work to do with the whip, and so I got a fellow to come by my house and coach me in whipcraft, which is harder than it seems. And then did a bit of conditioning because I knew it was going to be a physical movie.
The whip also came in handy during the famous truck chase stunt. They made Harrison lie down on a mat and hold the whip, and then dragged him down a dirt road.
Hold it. That's good.
And this resulted in a couple of bruised ribs.
I'm sure it's not dangerous. See, if it was dangerous, they would have waited till we got more of the movie done.
Stunt veteran Gary Powell, who's worked on Indiana Jones, tells us what it takes for an actor to pull off a stunt like this.
Just dragging him behind, he could have easily, rolled and hurt his shoulder or something like that. Having, the carpet, say, underneath him certainly helped. He may have had like a chest protector there, to help him. I would imagine there might have been a quick release on the rope, so if there was a problem, they could release him straight away. Even if, it would have been a dusty road, so I'm sure they would have graded it, but it would have still been like a few bumps. So if you're doing, whatever speed they was doing, 25, 30, 35 mile an hour, and you're bumping a little bit at that speed, it's like someone punching you in the chest.
Things heated up in the bar fight scene where most of the movie set was on fire. And while they had the fire under control, the set got a lot hotter than expected. Then came the boulder chase through the temple. This scene was equally intense. The boulder was 22 feet in diameter, and even though it was made of fiberglass, it was still pretty heavy. So the crew had to figure out a safe way to stop it in the tunnel in case anyone tripped and fell while running away from it during filming. The worst injury Harrison had while filming was a ligament tear in his leg during the Nazi plane fight.
At a certain point, I slipped and fell, and the wheels rode up onto my knee, which resulted in me tearing the arterial cruciate ligament in my left leg in the middle of Tunisia. So rather than submit to any local medical care, we just wrapped it up and put ice on it.
Next is the second film, The Temple of Doom. The Temple of Doom got so violent, the PG-13 rating was established by the film board as a result.
It was the set where, there was the crevice there where people were getting thrown. Technically there was the lava down there. They got Harrison, they was going to torture him, where they lowered him down in that crate thing. So I should imagine that's the one that pushed the PG-13, whatever it was back then.
Harrison had to weight train and be more physically fit for this film, and he also had to pick up a new skill, aka riding an elephant. Filming with elephants was exciting but physically stressful. And they ended up flying him back to LA for surgery for a herniated disc injury. One of the most terrifying stunts in the Temple of Doom was the fight on the rope bridge. They built a real bridge and suspended it 300 feet above a river at a dam in Sri Lanka. Spielberg was too afraid to cross it. Harrison, on the other hand, ran straight across to get over his fear. To make it look like Indy cut the ropes of the bridge, they had to rig part of it with electrical detonated charges, and after filming the fight, they filled the bridge with dummies and set it off. The third film is The Last Crusade. This movie had more chase sequences than any other film, and one of them was the high-speed boat chase in Venice. This boat chase was challenging for actress Alison Doody, who didn't know how to drive a boat in the first place. The chase ends with the boat getting chopped up, and to make it look real, they took part of a ship, attached real propellers to it, and placed it on a 15-foot deep pond. Then they built a longer boat, mounted it on an underwater track, and had a winch pull it towards the propeller.
Where is he? Talk or you're dead! Damn it, kill me!
Last of all was the tank chase. Since they couldn't get a real one, they built their own. This thing was made of steel and weighed a solid 28 tons. That's as heavy as 28 Liberty Bells. They also had a second tank made of aluminum. This one was mounted on a filming unit and pulled around, and its wheels were made from foam so it wouldn't take Harrison's face off during close-ups in the fight. Let's move on to the fourth film, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This movie came out almost 19 years after the previous film, and by then, technology had evolved, which meant shooting stunts were a lot safer. And this brought out the Daredevil and Harrison Ford even more. Flying wires were used a lot in this warehouse chase scene.
We had a massive warehouse there where we set up all that as if it was the archives and all that. So we used to have these massive cables, like traveling cables in the roof. So when the truck was driving underneath, we could sort of swing Harrison down and match the speed. So he gets there and it sort of levels off and he drops into the back of it. The introduction of those sort of rigs has made our life a lot easier because you can do things like that. You know, probably years ago, it would have been someone swinging on a rope singly and hoping for the best that the timing's right, and if the truck weren't there, then he's either got to hold on for dear life or try and make it.
Large 500-gallon air cannons were used to blast through breakaway crates, and you can see these soldiers thrown back from the blast. Fight scenes were also a lot more physical, and Harrison's skills with the whip had gotten better. And despite being much older, there was nothing Harrison couldn't do.
Harrison is a really tough cookie, honestly. You know, I was surprised. I'm not surprised anymore, but I was in the beginning. How he can handle it and how he doing it, and you know, all those fights. You know, he takes so well. He goes, "What are you doing?" Igor, you punch like a girl. Go ahead. So I deliver. Trust me, I deliver. Really, I was there, but he's tough.
The toughest scene to film in this movie was Indy exploring the lost city of Akator. In it is the disappearing spiral staircase scene, which was hard to film. The cast had to run down the steps before they disappeared, and this was pretty scary despite being in a harness. Fast forward another 15 years, and we have The Dial of Destiny. This movie is set to be Indy's last adventure, and probably the last time we'll see Harrison Ford play the role.
I've been looking for this all my life.
Despite being 80, Harrison insisted on putting on Indy's hat one last time. The best piece of technology we've seen is the de-aging process that makes Harrison look decades younger. Basically, they digitally mined his facial features from all his Indy movies over the years, then they made Harrison act out the scene with CGI markers on his face, and then with some VFX magic, they made him look younger. At this point, he obviously has a stuntman doing most of the heavy stunt work, but Harrison still managed to get a piece of the action. He even got a shoulder injury in the process.
With shoulders, they're so easy to do, you know, because there's a lot of moving parts in the shoulder. You know, it could have been something where he's got jarred or he might have just landed on it a bit funny. I know the boys on it and they said, you know, he knows what he's capable of. You know, you don't really have to sort of go, look, Harrison, this one's a little bit too much. He'd be like, you know, he can see it. He's been around long enough to know his limit. So, which again makes it a fantastic working relationship.
Do you think we'll ever have another Indiana Jones after this? Do you think Harrison will want to be in it? Tell us about it in the comments. Like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to Xplained.